Hello, everybody, and good afternoon. Are we afternoon or morning? Still morning? Go on, give us a good morning. Morning, all. Morning. My name's Steve Pimblett. I'm the Chief Data Officer of the Very Group, so very.co.uk. We also have a brand, Littlewoods, for those old enough to remember the Littlewoods brand, which is still live and kicking in Ireland. And I'm going to talk about Very, our data strategy, and how we drive value from trust, and very much the data catalog that we've used to support that, which is Alation. A little bit about me first. My favorite book is Super Crunches, which is all about how data was going to change the world. My favorite film is Moneyball. Hands up, those that you must have seen Moneyball. We all love a bit of Moneyball. I met my wife on Match.com many years ago, so I believe in data-driven relationships. And I spend my weekend trying to beat Betfair. So maybe you get a bit about my life. I'm a data expert / it takes over my life. So the opportunity to be Chief Data Officer at Very Group was sort of too good to be true for me. For those that don't know, Very is one of the biggest brands in the UK as an online retailer, pure play. So its turnover is about 2 billion. We have a financial services and a retail offering for customers. So our target demographic is families on a budget across the UK. We've got about 4.5 million active customers. We're a digital online only now, and I'll take you back through the history and why it's relevant for data cataloging in a second. We have over 2 million daily active visits to our website, mobile and apps. We spend 150 million on marketing every year, above the line, through the line, every digital touch point imaginable. We have a huge call center helping customers with both their financial services questions and needs and their retail questions and needs. And last year, I think we shipped almost 50 million parcels across the UK and Ireland from a fully automated warehouse in Leicester. So you imagine the data that we've got flowing through our data ecosystem, and as a chief data officer, I get to help the company understand it and leverage it. A little bit more about the history of Very, which is really relevant when we start to think about trust, cataloging, etc. So it's a really old company. So it was established way back in 1890. So again, those old enough might remember the Littlewoods catalogs back in the day, or index catalogs. So it was all the same brand. So very much over many years, the company has transformed. So from a catalog business to a bricks and mortar retailer, through to then a call center and an app, and then now it's fully online and an online only business. So that transformation over many decades has left, if you're technical, lots of tech debt. If you work in PR, we call it heritage. So I've got lots of heritage to go after at Very. And as Chief Data Officer, really I need to navigate that heritage and also develop a data strategy and a set of execution plans that take us forward and grow as we all move into the modern data world. So how do we do that at Very? So a very much established a data strategy that is a 4-pillar strategy. So data, insight, action are the 3 pillars that we use to describe the value creation for the company. So, and we'll talk more about that in a second. And you can't really talk about data without talking about, we call it our trust framework. So privacy, consent, ethics, analytics, risk management. So very much 4 pillars that drive our strategy and drive the conversation with my exec colleagues at Very. And I've sort of rebranded us, and I know it doesn't quite spell it, but DNA, which is a bit of a play on being much more forensic as a company on understanding our business. So we are the DNA function, although my PR team say it doesn't spell that, but we're going with it anyway. As a team, we're about 120 strong, supporting the organization. There's about 4,000 people. We set ourselves a mission statement, which was to delight our customers, so the people shopping at Very, empower colleagues, and again, there's about 4,000 colleagues that we've got, and at any one stage using our data and BI products, there's about 1,400 of our staff logging into some form of intelligence system. And we set ourselves the challenge of really making sure we've got trusted data products and services. So a bit of a vision and a mission for the company so we can frame our data discussions. Mapping that into a single visual that tries to galvanize the whole company behind the strategy. This is our sort of vision on a page. So if you think about our data assets, and what I talked about before is the dimensions by which we understand our customer, our distribution, our supply chain, our call center. We've got one of the richest assets in the UK with all the various dimensions. So we really want to centralize that understanding that cuts across the business to drive value. How do we do that? We do that through pushing it through our insight engines, whether that's just some form of descriptive analytics, BI and intelligence and management information reporting that's automated, or whether it's something much more advanced, some type of predictive model to predict churn, predict what stock we should purchase, how we should spend our marketing money. So we have an insight center of excellence that helps the business with that. And last but not least, which is the most important part of value creation at Very, and it's the thing we start with, is the action. And I'll talk about our business model and operating model in a second, but we try to frame every discussion from the right to the left. So what's the action? What's the KPI? What's the return on investment? Okay, now we understand that. What insight do we need? Now we understand that. What data serves that purpose? Rather than left to right, because the techies and the IT and data function just want to build capability. Let's just build a lake house. Let's build a warehouse. Or let's implement some type of business intelligence tool. We very much start from the right and work back. And very much that's our engagement model. And there are sort of 3 core competencies that we try to enable at Very. So everything to do with customer-centric marketing and experience. So again, millions of visits every day on a website. You really want that experience to be personalized to some extent. So we help our digital customer experience team personalize that. If you've just purchased something on Very and you come back an hour or 2 later, you're probably not repurchasing. You probably want to check where that delivery is up to. So context aware. If you've just started to look at fashion, and we sort of can start to insinuate your trend, what type of brands you might be interested in. So recommendations, personalization on our experience. The same with our marketing. So how do we leverage the data and the insight to drive more efficient marketing? Another big part of what we offer is customer-centric decisioning. So Very is a multi-category retailer. It's got every product imaginable from home, beauty, fashion, sports. So how do we decide how much stock to buy of hundreds of thousands of SKUs? We've got a whole forecasting and availability and price function that helps the business understand that. So strategy, data, insight, action, all underpinned by trust. And the last framing slide, before we get into the actual context of cataloging, is very much what we've tried to do is demystify data and analytics for our business colleagues. So when we talk to the business we don't really talk about the technology or the data itself. We've got a product view of data and analytics. So we're talking to finance at the moment about P&L, single SKU margin optimization. What a great topic that is. But what they actually want is a cube. They want to slice and dice by many dimensions to understand profitability. So we say, you need a cube. It might be, at the moment, one of the big problems that we had as a company was just understanding our data. So we said, you need a catalog. You need a way of understanding your data environment, cataloging it, organizing it, and I'll come on to talk about that in a second. The same with our action system. You know, whatever it is you're doing, we're a B2C, you tend to want to target or personalize or drive some form of optimization. So we've productized our data insight and analytics offerings just to make the conversations easier. Now everybody wants one. Can I have a cube, please, Steve? Can I have some targeting? So it's great for engagement and communication. Last really important slide is really the operating model and the organizational chart. So I joined 18 months ago. Data was just distributed as a function across the whole organization. So it was very much a department-led business. So you had marketing had their own data, supply chain, retail, financial services, and no really hub that was a trusted partner to go to, a center of excellence, a place to wrap some governance and strategy and architecture. It was very much just distributed. So I've implemented a hub and spoke model where my hubs are managed centrally, so as centers of excellence, gives my team great career plans, standardize technology stacks, and gives us some governance and wrappers in the middle. And then we very much operate with the spokes. So the spokes are business verticals across Very that we partner with on their DNA strategy. So very much the win-win there is we more or less are treated like an internal agency. So we do joint ventures. So we'll have a joint venture with retail at the moment on improving forecasting accuracy for new lines because COVID has made the forecasting really difficult. We've got a joint venture with marketing on econometrics to maximize that 150 million pound spend. So we very much run hubs and spokes. Hub offer consultancy. It's about design once, reuse everywhere. And we have partner managers. So my team, I've got heads of that run the centers of excellence, that line manage everybody. And I've more or less got a client account team that productize the information, talk about strategy, talk about joint road mapping, investment. And that's the operating model and organizational structure. So the data landscape and how did we drive value from trust. So now you understand, hopefully, the size of the organization, the heritage. So again, I arrived 18 months ago and said, Chief Data Officer, the very first at Very, can I just see what data we've got, please? I'm really excited. Firstly, I didn't know who to ask. Secondly, when I did ask, they gave me some spreadsheets and said, well, I think we've got some data in marketing. I think there's some personal identifiable information there. We've definitely got data in financial services. I said, no, we need a proper catalogue of our data, where it is, what we do, how we use it, where the value is. So we started to look at the systems. Now you understand our heritage. We've got every technology stack imaginable over the last many, many decades. So I've got Teradata system, I've spun up AWS, I've got S3, I've got Redshift, I've got Oracle. So I've got a plethora of different systems that I've got to now either understand myself or help the business understand within the spokes. It was very, very complex, multiple registers, all in Excel, no data lineage, many, many different glossaries, siloed data, siloed teams, really difficult to audit. So the annual audit process would be massively manual, and very much siloed data stewards because they just lived in the individual business units. So a real opportunity to cut across that complexity, and we convinced the business that we should move forward and implement some cataloging software. The way we did that actually was the non-exec directors at Very are not as young as they once were, so we sort of told a story, and the story went something like this. So those old enough to remember will remember the Sunday Top 40 charts. Hands up if you're old enough to remember the Sunday Top 40. Yeah, and you used to record the Top 40 on a cassette tape. So, and then you do it every Sunday, and then you might end up with 5, 6, 7 tapes. And you couldn't remember what you put on each tape, and it just doesn't matter. I'll just, get another tape if you've got enough money and record it. So my analogy was Very had been doing that for decades, and we've got millions of tapes, and somebody's just asked me to delete UB40, and unfortunately no one's wrote what songs are on which tape. So that was my analogy. What they actually want is Spotify. They want to index, they want to catalog all their data, and they want to be able to right mouse click and remove UB40. Don't know why UB40, by the way. So that was the sort of, storytelling simplification for our non-exec to make sure that they understood the type of capability that we needed. So introducing Alation, so we run an RFP, we looked at many of the different cataloging, governance and management tools that were on the market, and Alation really hands down one for us in terms of what it offered. How did we sell it first? Well, you've had the story of the Netflix story, Spotify story, but very much there was a couple of dimensions. So obviously cataloging and risk go hand in hand in many companies. You really got to understand your PAI landscape, what data you've got, how you use it, are you meeting your retention policies and regulation. So the cataloging solution gives us that. The time to find and use trusted data. So in our Teradata estate, we have 250,000 tables. How does that happen? Just decades of creation of tables that haven't been cataloged, haven't been deleted, or so the time to insight can be pretty high because more or less when somebody new joins, they just ask the person that sat next to them or in the same team, what do you do? And they say, we use that table, and no one really understands the lineage. So we've got a real opportunity to reduce time to insight. Same with accelerating onboarding of new staff. So we're lucky enough to be growing as a company and a function, and just the education of that massive estate when the cataloging was all done in Excel, versus a collaborative tool where you can collaborate around your data. So the time and the experience of your staff when you join. And obviously another big one is if you've got that much data, there's a real opportunity to reduce the cost when it comes to storage and processing costs and indexing, etc. Excuse me, and helps with thinking of cloud migrations. And last but not least, one of the main reasons we picked Alation was the collaborative way that it allows data stewardship and collaboration across the user interface. Really intuitive, really easy to use. So for those that don't know, Alation connects to your systems, puts the metadata into a set of tables, gives you a search function over the top, and allows you to collaborate around it, with things like trust indicators, validation of the data, data stewardship. So a really intuitive, collaborative way of working that fitted our model, because as a hub team, we own the implementation of the catalog, but the spokes are absolutely the data stewards. So we needed a hub software that gave us that could scale, that had automation built in, that had collaboration. So Alation was a great fit for us. So where are we and how are we measuring success? So we really a couple of ways really. We measure usage. So we want to drive collaboration whilst reducing risk and creating value. So these are some of the metrics that we look at for our user community. So usage, there's about 1,400 people who are one way or another potentially accessing data. So we're trying to get them to start using our catalog, even if it's just for glossaries. What's your standard term for margin? And is that statement understood? So we can start to measure usage, which is the catalog visits themselves. So out the box, it comes in usage metrics. You can see what searches people are interested in. So you can see hot topics. So we've got a search, and there's lots of searches on a particular topic. At the minute, it happens to be single customer view. So my team, as a hub team, start to write an article. So we sort of publish knowledge based upon the searches that are coming through the system. So very much usage. Curation is then, I'm not a big fan of driving business change through a tool, but actually when the tool's a great intuitive tool, you can point at it as a frame and a reference for that business change. So it's allowed us to point at a tool and say, we've got this amazing tool and facility. We really need the business to lean in with stewards that are going to leverage the power of the tool, leverage collaboration, get training, get education. So we sort of look at it in terms of how many stewards have we got, are they active, what education do we need, and also of our assets, are they organizing them, are they scoring them in terms of either risk or trust or performance. A massive KPI for the tool is actually, are we on top of our PAI data assets? Are we managing our PAI estate? We've built views in Alation that allows us to click on the thousands of tables that make up our PAI estate. Are they governed, and who's the steward, and are we on top of all the compliance for those particular assets and tables? And also it just helps us understand key tables and flows that are either looking to be changed, so as a change goes in, you can understand that, or where the lineage is really intensive and there's a lot of cross-pollination of data and tables, so we use it to manage risk that way. Alation comes with sort of trust rankings, so every field, table, area, you can start to rank that particular table in terms of do you trust it. So what we've got now is our enterprise tables that have been built by our central hub are platinum rated. So they are rubber stamped, DNA trusted data sets. If you use them, they've been validated, they've been quality checked, versus Bob's table, that is called Bob's table, that actually hundreds of people are using, that he doesn't know where he's got the data from as a start point. Maybe you don't want to trust that table. You might be better off using the enterprise one. So, those type of trust rankings and endorsements where people like that particular set of tables, and also warnings. So it allows us, where we're migrating, to say there's a warning coming because we're just about to change that table, migrate that table, replace that system, so we can have warnings and indicators that help the community understand those assets. And last but not least is very much, this is not just about reducing risk, this is about creating value. So we start to measure the fact that we've reduced our estate, we've got better collaboration, are we getting better time to insight? And we are actually, not just because we're reducing our data set, but the collaboration and the community value across what was a very siloed organization. You can see the articles getting generated and the conversations happening through the tool. So it wasn't actually the data reduction, it was the collaboration of somebody in financial services saying, I really wanted to get a view across some type of value segmentation. Someone in finance going, I've wrote a value segmentation, it's here. And the time to insight, because the collaboration across these different siloed teams has been improved through this collaboration. And finally, because we are deleting data, removing old data from previous mergers and acquisitions. Just our storage cost is reducing on the many platforms that we use. So those are our measures. So it's all about how do we drive collaboration across the spokes? How do we curate our data, reduce risk, and at the same time measure the value to make sure it's continually sponsored? So in summary, I suppose, hopefully you can see the framing of data at Very. So we believe in our 4 pillars: data, insight, action, underpinned by trust. Alation is a key partner for us in that trust pillar. And very much that cataloging collaboration has helped not only the trust pillar to reduce risk, but it's starting to help with the pillars that rely on that layer. So we've got more trusted data, tick, that's in our mission statement. Our time to insight has gone up. We've got empowered colleagues, and we're driving more and more action on the back of our data. So you can see how those 4 pillars have come together in terms of a strategy, and Alation has helped and underpinned that transformation. And 4 minutes to go, so I'm happy to take any questions, or you can escape for lunch. So any questions? Here you go, gentlemen.
You've mentioned at the end about the funding part or the KPIs that help to sell the value of the entire platform and the stuff that you do. So what are the key KPIs that you are selling to the top, and who is actually paying for your part of the organization?
Yeah, sure. So that was KPIs and who pays. Yeah, so DNA Hub is centrally funded, so through the group, and the CIO has got that in his budget. And where it's a joint venture, the individual spokes will spend their money via my team. So I've set up Alation. If retail that have got Oracle need an Oracle connector, they fund that themselves. So it's a split model when it comes to the hubs sponsored centrally, and the spokes have to invest to get their bit of it. When it comes to KPIs, we're pretty good at publishing those KPIs on like a scorecard. We do that a lot. So we'll be scoring the individual businesses on some of those KPIs. There's nothing worse than being last on a list or red. So, when we send it out and go, oh, HR, you're red against your KPI and everybody else is green, it tends to get some traction in that area. So it's sort of basic psychology of not wanting to finish last. So we publish them on scorecards. What we did do, though, maybe one of the things when it came to data stewardship, we didn't do data stewardship in a way, it's called non-intrusive data stewardship if you read articles about it. So rather than tell someone they were data steward, they've been doing it for years. We rewarded people for being data stewards that were out in the out in the spokes. We got some budget for them. We got some training for them. They were the first ones on the tool. So we very much, sponsored the upside for the individual and career plans than pointed at someone and said, you're now a data steward. So centrally funded KPIs that are shared on monthly dashboards, showcases, and sort of carrot and stick is probably a good term. Great question at the end.
Actually, that's something similar. So you've gone from silos in legacy to a hub and spoke model. Feels like a big cultural change. How easy was it to get buy-in? What did you do to get people to buy in? Because presumably there would be some people who maybe had a bit of historic momentum.
Yeah, definitely. So the cultural side of it is the hardest side. So, and I'll say the same thing is you partner with your advocates, so show where it works. So very, very early, marketing leaned in because they could see a win-win, and we used that example where we created a white paper of how successful the hub and spoke model was, the value that it created. So we sort of used like an advocacy model as though, again, my background's very much, I've worked in consultancy, B2B, so treated it like that. We're an agency that partners with the individual business silos, and now we create joint plans, joint strategies, joint white papers. We go to investment board together. So I'm seen as a trusted partner, not somebody that's going to slow them down. You still get that. You still get the silos that want to carry on, and I can't manage everything, and I can't, don't want to slow them down. It's to speed them up. And there also is some type of risk accountability ultimately at a group level. So they individually weren't necessarily managing that. That was so very much, risk is my friend when it comes to that. Put things red on a big group risk register and actually say, don't worry, I can help you solve that. So sort of trusted partner style collaboration is the cultural change. Great, I'll let everybody escape for lunch, and I will take questions. So anyone that wants to have a chat, I've got 30 seconds left afterwards. So it was a pleasure chatting to you all. Thank you.